Right now on Morning News Now, controversy and conflict. This morning, President Trump set to travel to the UK for trade talks, while fallout grows over the Jeffrey Epstein case, with convicted Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell speaking with a top Justice Department official for a second straight day. Plus, a moment of friction at the Federal Reserve as the president pressures the chairman to lower interest rates.
The meeting, no, there was no tension. I believe that the chairman is going to do the right thing.
We'll take you to Washington for the very latest. Summer scorcher, millions of people bracing for what's expected to be the hottest day all week, with triple-digit temperatures forecast from New England to the southeast. We're tracking the heat as you start your weekend. Also, cases of COVID on the rise across the country. What doctors want you to know to stay healthy. And he was king of the ring. Sadness in the sports world and beyond over the death of wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, whose signature look and larger-than-life personality made him a household name for generations in and out of the ring. We're going to look back at his life and his legendary career. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is on assignment, and let's start with the good news. It is Friday. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. We're going to begin our show this morning with the ongoing firestorm surrounding the Trump administration's handling of files tied to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says he is planning to meet with Epstein's convicted former accomplice. That's Ghislaine Maxwell, who you're seeing on your screen. That's going to be for a second day again today as the administration tries to tamp down the mounting controversy. Blanche met with Maxwell and her attorney yesterday at a Florida courthouse. It's a meeting that Democrats have blasted as suspicious. Well, speaking afterwards, Maxwell's lawyer said his client cooperated fully with Blanche.
Ms. Maxwell answered every single question. She never stopped. She never invoked a privilege. She never declined to answer. She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability.
Let's get right to NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba on this. Monica, good morning. So first, just explain about these meetings between Blanche and Maxwell, what the Justice Department is trying to get out of these conversations.
Well, Savannah, this meeting really came together very quickly. It was just a couple of days ago on social media that the Deputy Attorney General said he was seeking this meeting on behalf of the Attorney General, who directed him to do so. And he did spend most of yesterday with Ghislaine Maxwell, saying that she answered every single question. She didn't decline any kind of question. But our major question, Savannah, is what kind of information they could be discussing here and what, if anything, could be new. Because remember, she was investigated, indicted, then convicted. There was a trial. So all of this kind of information that perhaps the government would want to know, they had an opportunity to try to ask, but they were not convinced that she would be forthcoming or that she would tell the truth, because they believed that she would lie under oath if they needed her to give that kind of information. So it's really unclear, again, what kind of material, what that could lead to, but this had been under pressure that the Trump administration was facing to try to quell some of this unrest in the MAGA base that was clamoring for more information. But as you noted, they are going to continue that conversation today. So they are saying that after this wraps up, this meeting with Maxwell, they could potentially share more. But remember, so much of this might be sensitive because it relates to the victims of what Ghislaine Maxwell was ultimately convicted of, and her co-conspirator, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide, waiting on trial to face similar sex trafficking charges, which is underage girls who were the victims of this sex trafficking scheme. So there's a lot of sensitivity around that as well, Savannah.
What are Democrats saying about this?
Well, they're concerned that this was a private meeting behind closed doors, and they say that if it's the president's own Department of Justice, the Democrats argue they can't trust whatever they say that may have come out of this. So that is why they are trying to seek their own way to depose Ghislaine Maxwell and see if they can be a part of the congressional process to also ask her some questions. So it's possible that that could happen. They're pushing for that, and we could see that in a couple of weeks, potentially, Savannah.
Monica, recess is going to start soon. Where do we think this goes from here?
Yeah, and I think that is a real key question here in terms of this story that the White House did not want to be talking about in the last couple of weeks. They want to be pointing to other things. But it's the own White House and Department of Justice that the president is overseeing that is talking about these future steps. And just last night, the president posted online that he did believe that there could be even some grand jury testimony or transcripts that could be released that is also making its way through a legal process. And it's possible that some of that maybe could come out, though just a couple of days ago, ago, a judge indicated that he couldn't release more information because it wasn't in the public interest, and the judge said that the court's hands are tied, but the president is still putting that out there, so of course the headlines aren't going to go away.
Monica, just quick, I do want to switch gears here, and we'll circle back to this in a moment, but I want to ask about the president's visit to the Federal Reserve. So Mr. Trump met with Chairman Jerome Powell. He has criticized him publicly. He has been sort of talk of replacing him, though he said he won't do that imminently. That tension, though, it was on full display in front of reporters yesterday. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this was a pretty remarkable scene that we're going to let you see for yourselves. But this is just to bring the context into this, the president has been extremely critical of the Fed chair, but he appeared alongside him. And the reason he was there is because he wanted to go inspect this renovation project that they're doing at the headquarters, because he's been critical of the price tag as what they call the constructor-in-chief role that he likes to play in observing these kinds of projects. Take a listen to how this exchange went.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody. You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
So a real-time fact check there in hard hats and all, Savannah. Of course, this has been a really important aspect for the president, where he is continuing to apply pressure. He even there said he wanted to ask the chair to lower those interest rates, which is something he talks about all the time. But it's another whole thing to see him do it in person, standing next to him.
And Monica, remind us the latest of where we're at with the back and forth on if Mr. Trump is considering trying to oust him from this job.
He will be out of his term in a couple of months, Jerome Powell, and so the president had been threatening to fire him, and there were conversations about whether he might do that. But now it seems he has relented on the actual firing, saying he will be out of his post because that term will end anyway, and then he will install somebody that he believes might be more favorable to what he wants to do. But he still continues to criticize him and likely won't stop until he is out of office.
All right, Monica Alba, thank you very much for starting us off this hour. Well, regulators in the Trump administration approved Skydance Media's $8 billion bid to acquire Paramount. That is the parent company of CBS News. The Federal Communications Commission said it approved the acquisition yesterday, paving the way for major changes at CBS News. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr said in a news release that the move would bring a, quote, commitment to unbiased journalism. Paramount's new owner has made several concessions to the FCC in recent days, including an agreement to not implement any DEI programs at the company. This also comes after Paramount Global settled a $16 million lawsuit with President Trump over a 60 Minutes interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris. He says that the way CBS edited the interview was election and voter interference. Critics of the settlement said it was amounted basically to a bribe to get the Skydance deal done. Well, this morning we are learning chilling new details about the murders of 4 college students in Idaho. Now that gag order in the case against Bryan Kohberger has been lifted since it's not going to trial, the lead prosecutor is speaking publicly about the investigation. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has the story.
With Bryan Kohberger now locked behind bars for life, lead prosecutor Bill Thompson finally able to share details on the case.
You say that there's no sense of a motive still. But do you have any working theories that you can share?
There are lots of theories out there, none that I can share because they're just speculative.
Thompson speaking after that emotional hearing where Kohberger was sentenced for the murders of Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Madison Mogen.
Maddie was my only child that I ever had.
Police also releasing hundreds of documents, one revealing that Kaylee Gonzalez told her roommates she thought a man was following her, and around the same time saw a man staring at her while walking her dog.
I think that the roommates and Kaylee's sense that something was amiss probably was accurate.
Could that have been Bryan Kohberger?
Sure, certainly could have been Bryan Kohberger.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
Another chilling revelation, a tip from a woman who says she matched with Kohberger on Tinder just before the murders. She says he asked her what would be the worst way to die. She responded, a knife, to which she said, like a K-bar, the exact weapon believed used in the killings. And as for that plea deal that took the death penalty off the table for Kohberger,
What do you say to those families who feel like that was doing a deal with the devil?
We made a proposal on our terms, not his.
I think there's still those who feel like it's what he wanted was life in prison versus the death penalty.
I don't know what was going through his head or what he wanted. One way or another, he's going to be in prison until he dies.
Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Boise.
Let's get you some weather now. Today is expected to be the hottest day of the year for much of the East Coast, with temperatures climbing into the triple digits in several cities. Also, though, more flooding in southern New Mexico yesterday. Fast-moving waters washed away a home. This happened right in that same spot where 3 people died from flooding earlier this month. Back here in the Northeast, though, it is going to be hot, hot, hot. We have NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Goss keeping an eye on all of it. She joins us from the beach, where it looks like it's already a warm morning. Steph, good morning. How hot is it expected to get here on the East Coast?
Very hot. You know, a good indication of it, it's early right now, right? And there are plenty of people who are already on this beach and who have already gone in the water. There are days that are uncomfortably hot in the summer, and then there are days like this one where it's actually dangerously hot in places. And it's cities across the country, including here in Long Island, even though that sea breeze is kind of nice, Savannah. It's going to last really just today, which is good news for people in this part of the country. In other parts of the country, however, like Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte as well, those are places that are hot and steamy in the summer, but they rarely hit 100, and they are actually gearing up to be in the hundreds for multiple days in a row.
Steph, let's also talk about the flooding in parts of the country. I know it's not where we are here on the East Coast, but it has been so bad for some of these places, and unfortunately, relentlessly so. The same places continuing to be hit. What do people need to know?
Yeah, I mean, it has been terrible. And obviously, we've been talking about Texas, but also what's happened right now in Ruidoso, New Mexico, is really shocking. And it's the second time that that town has been flooded with raging waters in a month. The first time, it was a deadly flood, and these no less serious. What's happening is that in areas where there are burn scars from fires, this monsoonal rain is dumping on them, and then it's quickly turning into a raging flood, and people having to be rescued from their cars. That incredible video of the house basically smashing into trees. I mean, it's the kind of images that we are seeing over and over and over again this summer. Incredibly alarming. I mean, these are places that are used to getting really heavy rains, monsoonal rains this time of year. But this has been more intense than it has been for a long time, Savannah.
Oh, it really has, and in so many different pockets of the country. All right, Steph, I hope you've got a hat, sunglasses, something. I'm sure you're going to be out there on TV 100 times for us today from the 90-degree heat. Yeah. Appreciate it. Well, now let's get even more on those suffocating temperatures that have been impacting millions of Americans all week long. Michelle Grossman's here. Hey, Michelle.
Hey there, Savannah. Yeah, all week long, and we're continuing it today in some spots actually into the weekend. So this is what it looks like right now. 98 million people at risk for this severe heat. We're looking at heat advisories. That's where you see the orange. So places like Dallas, Little Rock, Nashville, Cincinnati. We have an extreme heat warning in that hot pink color. That includes Philadelphia, St. Louis, and we're going to see those temperatures soaring once again into the upper 90s, into the triple digits. You factor in that humidity, it will feel like 115 in spots. That's very dangerous. But here is a dividing line. We have this cold front that's kind of dividing the temperature. So back behind it, this is the relief that's on the way. Back behind, we're looking at temperatures into the 70s in Milwaukee. Ahead of it, this is where we're sweltering. The problem, too, is this is entering that really humid air, that warm air. So we're seeing showers and storms along this front, and we're going to see severe weather as we go throughout the later part of today. So look at these numbers once again. Dallas, 99 degrees, might as well be 100, but it's going to feel like 105 once you factor in that humidity. Same story in Memphis. We'll feel like 101 in Macon. It's going to feel like 108 in D.C. So that is today. And then as we head further to the north, that heat expands into the New England areas. We're looking at some record highs likely to fall across the area today. Philadelphia feeling like 107. It's going to feel like 107 in Baltimore, feeling like 105 in Richmond, and it will feel like 99 degrees in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. So that is today. Then tomorrow, this is where we're going to really hold on to the heat. So we're looking at temperatures into the 90s once again. Again, the humidity will be in place. So St. Louis feeling like 111 tomorrow. It's going to feel like 100 degrees in Cincinnati. 109 will be the heat index in Charlotte. So it's so important to hydrate, find those cooling centers, go to the movies, go to the mall if you have to, if you don't have air conditioning, and stay in the shade if you need to be outside or you have those kids at camp. Early next week, we're going to heat back up once again, so there's no relief. It's just day after day, and that's really, really tough on the body. So we're looking at temperatures in D.C. by next Tuesday into the upper 90s once again, into the triple digits in Charlotte on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday 102. So that heat story will continue. That cold front that I showed you, notice with that rain along the front. We're going to see showers and storms. We've already seen them all morning long, and that's only going to ignite further as we head throughout the afternoon hours with that daytime heating, hot and humid to the south, a little cooler to the north. We're looking at dry lightning, too, in portions of the west. There's that cold front, easy to see on radar. You see all those clouds. You see those bright colors. That's where the heavy rain is falling, and you're looking at that lightning. So it's even starting early this morning. That's an indication of what we will see later on today. And we could see some flooding rains because, remember, everything is so humid. The atmosphere is just saturated. 35 million people at risk for severe weather. We could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail. Notice that last one. Low tornado risk, but not zero. So we always need to watch out for the chance of an isolated tornado. And notice a yellow shading. That's Boston, Hartford, Philadelphia, New York City, these major airport hubs. So if you're heading out today or maybe you're traveling along these areas, headed out for the weekend, you want to call ahead to your airport to see if your plane is on time, because you know how that slows down once the storms do start. There's our cold front. The heat also fueling the strong storms across the Northeast. We could see some cooler air, too, around the Great Lakes with that cold front moving through. So back behind it, that wind change is going to bring in that nice Canadian air. Then tomorrow, showers sneaking into parts of the Northeast. We'll see new storms forming in the Midwest and also the Mid-Atlantic. So this trend of stormy weekends does continue, and we're looking at a whole lot of rain in some spots. We talked about that cold front where we're going to see those heavy rainfall, and you can see where those brighter colors are to the legend up top, 1, 2, even 3 inches of rain. And notice along the Gulf Coast, we are looking at the chance for some showers too, because that's tropical moisture all due to this system that probably will not develop. It only has a 10% chance, but still will bring some heavy rain along the Gulf Coast.
Okay, that sounds like a little bit of good news.
Yes.
The 10% chance
Your
of development.
Your hair looks amazing today, too. Can I say that?
Stop. Thank you. Gina. Shout out our girl, Gina.
Adorable. That's all.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'll see you in a little bit. You can come back.
I will.
All right. Well, much more to come here on Morning News. Now, later this hour, on the rocks, liquor sales taking a hit as the trade war rolls on. More on how tariffs are impacting the industry. But up first, after the break, the controversial and historic move by France to recognize Palestine as a state. Stay with us. We are back with alarming numbers out of Gaza concerning starvation. The UN said yesterday that 9% of Gaza's children are facing severe malnutrition. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley has the latest from a border crossing where food aid is brought in, which critics say is not coming in fast enough to remedy this hunger crisis.
Yusuf El-Safadi wasn't even 2 months old when hunger killed him. Now his father carries his son's body before he buries him. All this because of a lack of food and formula. His father said there is nothing in the country. A new report from the UN Humanitarian Affairs Office says as many as 9% of children in Gaza are suffering severe malnutrition. But the Israeli government says they've put no restrictions on allowing aid into Gaza.
There is no famine in Gaza. There is a famine of the truth.
The Israelis blame aid agencies for not distributing food that's already been delivered. As we're hearing growing anger around the world about the famine conditions inside Gaza, the Israelis have brought us just inside Gaza now, where they're showing us all of this food aid that they say aid agencies haven't been picking up and distributing it to the people who need it most. But the UN and other aid agencies say Israel's restrictive security conditions, as well as the dangers of operating inside Gaza, have made aid distribution extremely difficult.
There is only one way to reverse this trajectory, and that is by enabling sustained and unrestricted flow of aid into Gaza and enabling us to carry out our work.
As for a potential ceasefire deal, President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is heading home, saying that Hamas has not shown a desire for a deal and that the group isn't acting in good faith.
Matt, thank you very much. Well, let's stay with the Middle East. We have news here. French President Macron has announced France will recognize Palestine as a state. NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now with that and more world news in 60 seconds. Hey, Molly, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. That's right. All in 60 seconds. And we are starting with French President Emmanuel Macron's big announcement that France will recognize the state of Palestine, making France the first G7 nation to join the vast majority of UN member states, which already recognize the state. In a social media post, the president said he'll make the announcement in front of the UN General Assembly in September, adding the urgent priority today is to end the war in Gaza and to bring relief to the civilian population. We're next going to take you to Thailand, the disputed border area with Cambodia, where fighting entered a second day today. It's the deadliest clashes there in about a decade. More than 130,000 people have been evacuated from that area in Thailand, and at least 14 people have been killed, according to Thailand's public health ministry. And finally, a piece of deteriorating Banksy artwork titled The Migrant Child. Of course, he's the secretive British artist on the side of a building on a Venetian canal. It has now been removed from that palazzo wall. Art restorers say that it is to preserve the work for future display, and it was done in consultation with Banksy's team. But Savannah, surely sparks a lot of conversation about kind of the longevity or lifespan of street art, especially that which is supposed to be more secretive.
That is so true, and Banksy's always making conversation, right? Molly, thank you so much. Well, in Ukraine, there is still no clear path to end the war after another round of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian officials yesterday failed to result in any breakthrough. But this morning, we have an incredible story to share with you. This is of a soldier who returned from the front lines to meet his daughter for the very first time after being blinded in an airstrike. NBC News chief international correspondent Richard Engel has his story.
Calls for Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop his war on Ukraine, including from President Trump, are falling on deaf ears. Putin has been intensifying strikes on Ukraine's cities. But Ukrainians like Ruslan Kozychuk are not throwing in the towel. Kozychuk was injured by a Russian artillery shell in March 2023. He is now completely blind. He sees no shadows, no outlines. You realize that this darkness is forever, he told us. He was injured in Bakhmut. We saw the Russian attacks there ourselves as artillery rained down 24/7.
One just landed a few seconds ago.
What's more is Kozychuk's wife was pregnant before he left for the front lines. Their only daughter, Isabella, was born after he came back blind. So Kozychuk has never seen her and only knows the 2-year-old by touch and smell and sound. He told us it's difficult here at the playground because his daughter doesn't know if she goes out of earshot. He can't find her or protect her. She doesn't understand that she shouldn't go far away from her dad. I worry about it, he said. He is one of those rare types with an inconquerable will, refusing to be broken. Now he's exercising, throws a shot put to build strength, and rock climbs. And he is studying for a master's in psychology so he can be a counselor for other wounded Ukrainians.
Was it worth it?
Of course, he said. I would definitely return to the front line.
And this is why the Ukrainians have been able to hold on for over 3 years against Russia, which is a much larger adversary. Russia is fighting a war of choice. It is using mercenaries, foreign troops. For the Ukrainians, this is a fight for their homes, for their families, and they are willing to sacrifice everything for it.
Powerful report, Richard. Thank you so much. Well, coming up, summer bummer, a health warning from officials about a significant spike in COVID cases. Dr. Azar is with us with what you should know next on Morning News Now. We are back now with a look at the recent spike in COVID cases this summer. So CDC data shows the number of cases is either growing or likely growing as they gather this data across more than half of the country, with the southern states seeing the largest increase. The uptick is due in part to the spread of the current dominant strain. It's called NB181. It's been nicknamed razor blade throat. It currently makes up almost half of all new cases. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. She's got the latest on this. Dr. Azar, good morning. So how did this current dominant strain, I'm assuming it gets the nickname from the fact that your throat really hurts just with a name like that, but how are these symptoms different from other COVID strains, and what might tip someone off that this might be what they have if they don't feel well?
Well, for what it's worth, none of my patients who've had this COVID strain have complained of that severe sore throat, but anecdotally, yes, it supposedly causes like quite a severe sore throat. But sore throat's always been a symptom of COVID infection. This particular strain also, I think, is also known to cause a few more GI symptoms, such as nausea and vomiting. But all of the usual things, muscle aches, fever, all the stuff that we normally associate with viruses in general and with COVID can happen with this strain as well.
What do you think is driving the spike in summer COVID cases?
You know, I think it's a combination of things, Savannah. We always talk about when people are congregating indoors. We've had such significant heat waves this summer that people are going inside in air conditioning. So we know it's going to spread that way. And while there is still some low-level immunity from prior infection and vaccinations, so many people have not had a booster in over a year. So I think some of that waning immunity is also causing a bit of a spike. Wastewater levels have been rising quite significantly in a lot of areas of the country. But importantly, hospitalizations have not seen a commensurate rise, so we don't think it's causing more severe illness than prior strains, which is great.
So it doesn't seem like this is necessarily like a big cause for concern.
No, I think, you know, what we always talk about, the more vulnerable people, COVID will always be a cause of concern. And I think it's something that we are keeping our eye on. If we're starting to see levels rise now, experts are thinking that this summer wave, while significantly less severe than even last year and prior seasons, will probably peak around September and then go down again before a winter spike. So in the next couple of weeks, I think people need to be more alert about levels in their area for sure.
Let's talk booster shots. Let's talk vaccines. I mean, we just know from the numbers, not a lot of people are continuing to get them. What do you recommend here?
This is really important. So first of all, if you've been listening to the news at all, you know that there's been quite a bit of controversy and confusion about recommendations coming at the highest level from CDC and from their advisory committee, which basically pulled back on a recommendation, for example, for pregnant women to get their COVID shots, for healthy children or healthy young adults to get their COVID vaccines. Right now, the formal recommendation from most medical societies, as well as the CDC, is that individuals 65 and older or younger people who are immunocompromised or have chronic conditions are eligible for the vaccine. I will very clearly state that the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists absolutely still endorse vaccines for pregnant women, and the American Academy of Pediatrics also does recommend for children, but certainly a conversation to have with your doctor. But I really want to put a fine point on the recommendation that is continued from major medical groups about pregnant women and vaccinations, Savannah.
And it looks like for some people, you might end up paying out of pocket if you're not in one of these groups anymore, including pregnant women, based on the recommendations right now.
And that's the issue. And that vaccine could easily cost you $150 out of pocket if you're not considered in that high-risk group. And I should mention that pregnancy is considered a medical condition. So by definition, it should qualify. But if that formal recommendation is not coming from the advisory committee, it's going to be harder to convince insurers that they need to pay for it. And frankly, for pharmacists to actually give it. There are anecdotes where they have withheld from pregnant women.
Dr. Azar, thank you so much for joining us on this. Good to see you. Happy Friday. Well, in health news of a different kind, a growing number of people say they have received massive hospital bills for what they thought were routine doctor visits. They say the charges included some unexpected and previously undisclosed fees. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz digs into this growing problem.
When you're having health issues, the last thing you want is so much aggravation.
Todd Bash, a part-time teacher from the Los Angeles area, has been searching for a diagnosis for a spinal problem and an explanation from his insurer for his medical bills.
What are these extra charges? And they informed me that it was a hospital facility fee. So I explained I wasn't at a hospital, I just went to a doctor's appointment.
But what he learned is that even outpatient doctor's offices, like the one he went to, can charge facility fees if they're owned by or affiliated with hospitals.
This is a breakdown of an injection I had.
After getting an epidural steroid injection at a pain center which has hospital branding, his insurance was charged more than $14,000 just for facility fees. Todd's out-of-pocket costs nearly $700, all for an injection that he says just took a few minutes.
It's shocking.
Even more shocking, he was also being charged a facility fee for a telehealth appointment about the injection.
It seemed shady and dishonest and frustrating.
It's happening more and more. In 2012, just about a quarter of U.S. physicians were employed by hospitals or health systems. Today, it's more than half. Critics say that leads to higher prices for the same care.
They're just pasting a giant corporate name on the front of the clinical facility and charging more.
Dr. Brian Miller, an internal medicine physician at Johns Hopkins Hospital, studies healthcare policy.
The level of service you're getting is actually the same. They're just charging more, 60 to 70% more money for it. And that's like paying for a Mercedes and getting a Hyundai.
Facility fees are, frankly, about maintaining access to care in a community.
Molly Smith, the vice president at the American Hospital Association, says facility fees are essential and allow hospitals to maintain 24/7 care.
We've spoken to several patients across the country who have described these facility fees as shady or a scam or dishonest. What would you say to them?
I would say that facility fees are absolutely essential to maintaining healthcare services in their community. Without facility fees, I can't underscore this enough, physician practices are not going to be able to sustain themselves under their current business model.
It took Todd months to find an independent doctor, but when he finally did, he was able to get the same kind of injection that cost him $700, and this time...
My share is $37.17.
$37 for the same service.
The same exact thing.
The only difference, he says, is the sign on the front of the building.
Now, sometimes when you look at your bill, they're not even listed as facility fees. It could say miscellaneous or clinic fee with a code next to it. And if you want to avoid those kind of fees, experts recommend calling in advance and asking if they charge a facility fee. And if they do, ask for an estimate on what it could be. And of course, if you do get an unexpectedly massive medical bill, make sure you ask for an itemized bill for all of the charges. Back to you.
Great tip. Scotty, thank you so much. Coming up, Tapped Out, a closer look at the impacts of the ongoing trade war, why the alcohol industry is in low spirits, next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. We're 1 week away from the tariff deadline President Trump has set in his heated global trade war. One of the big industries caught in the geopolitical crossfire, alcohol, means your happy hour tab could end up getting more expensive. Beer and liquor imports, look at your screen, Canada, Mexico, the European Union, they're all at risk because trade deals with those partners are all on the rocks. CNBC reporter Brandon Gomez is here to break it all down for us. Brandon, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with Canada and listen to this stat. The U.S. liquor sales there fell nearly 66% from early March through the end of April. This is right after the country pulled American spirits from its stores, sort of this like protest type of move after we were seeing all this. What is happening now? Are American spirits still banned there? How is this impacting those American makers of alcohol?
Yeah, so all but two provinces. So two provinces have actually put U.S. spirits back on shelves, but the rest of them still keeping them off shelves. I was just in Montreal, and I asked a business owner, do you have any American spirits behind the bar? And he said, no, we stopped supplying it because of the impact of tariffs. So you did see that 66% drop, but then you also have to think about the supply that's coming over the border from Canada into the U.S., things like Canadian whiskey. Maybe there's a U.S. Consumer who wants that in stocked at their home bar.
Totally.
But unfortunately, because of that impact, you won't be able to sort of see those come through without having the impact of those tariffs, unless a negotiation is reached by August 1st, which is our next deadline that we're supposed to hear back on something.
And just a week out, and 90 deals in 90 days doesn't seem we've been on track for that exactly. Tell us about the European Union. What's going on with us there and alcohol coming and going?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's sort of a bourbon whiskey story. You have sort of like all of the imports that were going over there. There was a 50% tariff back in 2018. That went away. Although just now the EU is saying they're putting together a list of retaliatory tariff measures. Bourbon, back on that list. And so that could be something that you see in terms of impact of what we send over there. In terms of what the EU sends over to us, think French wines, Italian wines. I have an Aperol Summer, right? French liqueurs. And so you can see the prices of those rising for Americans as well, should there not be an agreement reached by the time that the two countries need to reach that deal.
And beer. Also, there's a story here with our southern neighbor. What's this?
You would not think of steel and aluminum when you're thinking of, I mean, we're showing glass bottles right now, but obviously some of those products come up in cans, right? Modelo, the #1 beer here in the U.S. Steel and aluminum, those are material costs that could be seeing a rise if we're not able to source them locally. I did speak to one domestic brewer, the company that is behind Harpoon and UFO beer. They said that a 12-pack could rise as much as $3 because of the material cost rising because of these tariffs. So
it's also kind of a weird story, right? Because it was like as soon as like rights were received to have these beers in the U.S., then it's like, oh my goodness, well, I might be hit with these tariffs. Explain that.
So Constellation Brands specifically, who has the exclusive U.S. rights for Modelo and Corona, well, when they acquired those rights, they were actually required to keep production in Mexico.
Right.
So the big question that the trade group here, the Distilled Spirits Council of the U.S., is saying is, could there be a carve-out for that company? Because are you actually going to tell them you have to keep production in Mexico and then charge them again for keeping production in Mexico? And so you may see case-by-case scenarios like that, but again, it'll all sort of have to play out in the next week.
Very interesting business stories. Brandon, thank you so much. Fascinating
Thanks,
stuff. We keep on realizing ways, right, that this will impact us all. Thank you. Well, another money news, SpaceX's Starlink network is back online this morning after a worldwide outage yesterday. CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other Wall Street headlines. Silvana, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Happy Friday to you. Well, yeah, so the SpaceX Starlink network, it is back online after suffering a rare global outage yesterday. It was for several hours. Now, an internal software failure knocking tens of thousands of users offline in a disruption for Elon Musk's satellite internet system. The outage coming as T-Mobile launched its new direct-to-cell text messaging service in partnership with Starlink this week, which allows users to send emergency texts in rural areas. Meanwhile, Google is rethinking the future of search results, launching a new AI-curated web guide. So the service is being tested now on Google Labs, and it uses Gemini to divide, curate, and explain your search results across several AI-generated categories. It can also make several searches at once. And Snapchat will now let your friends know you've made it home safe. It's rolled out a new feature called Home Safe. And to use it, you need to set up your home location by tapping your Bitmoji and Snap Map and then My Home. When you're out and you want to notify someone, you can open the conversation, tap the map icon, and then the Home Safe button, and your friends will get an automatic alert in your chat. Snapchat says alerts can only be sent to people you already share your location with. Savannah.
All right, that's kind of an interesting safety feature with some safety questions.
Feature. That's right. That's right.
But it's pretty neat. All right, Silvana, thank you so much.
You got it.
Well, let's pivot to an original series. This is from our friends over at Top Story. It's called Is This Real? It's where their team tries out what is trending so you don't have to. Well, this time around, NBC News correspondent Maya Eaglin, she checked out some of these viral summer products that are turning heads for us.
It's summertime in New York City, and here in Central Park, people are out and so is the sun. One of the most important things to remember is your sunscreen. Enter the Boon UV Sunscreen Applicator. It's just one of 4 viral products that caught our eye on social media. And we wanted to check them out to see if they make a day in the sun even more fun. On social, Boon UV Sunscreen Applicator claims to make applying sunscreen less messy with no hassle. Let's open it up. All right, we're gonna fill this all up. So let's see how long it takes to apply the sunscreen using the dispenser versus just your hands. Start the clock. Now let's try just our hands. So at 23 seconds, we still have a bit of a cast and a long ways to go, I think. Overall, I think this is real. It definitely made the application process a lot faster, but I did notice there was some product still stuck in this sponge, so just something to be mindful of. Either way, wear your sunscreen. Now that we have our sunscreen on, it's time for a picnic. And to help, we have a product that says it can keep things cool on the go. The Odolan Insulated Cooler Backpack is a portable cooler that says it can keep items refrigerated for up to 16 hours. It comes with these 3 ice packs, and these are nice and cold. Our water is also nice and cold, so I would say this is real. It also holds a ton of stuff. And it wouldn't be a picnic without some refreshing summer snacks. And these next products promise to make it easier. The Yadata Watermelon Slicer and Cutter says it's portable, easy to use, and safe. This product going viral for its ability to make cutting up the signature summer fruit easy. We've got to cut it open, and then it's going to cube it for us. Oh! Splash zone. Okay. And then you're going to lift it out. Let's take these off and give it one more go. I'm gonna put it away because I don't want to splash on me like last time. Honestly, like we have several chunks, so I would say this is real and a little messy, so be careful.
And finally, the YZC Lemon Squeezer, which promises to maximize extraction and allows you to enjoy freshly squeezed pure juice.
So it says you just push the squeezer into the stem of the lemon. You're going to twist the squeezer, and apparently juice will come out without any pulp or seeds. So I'm a little skeptical, but let's see if it's real. Honestly, I'm not seeing any seeds or pulp, so I think this is real. Let's see if the lime works. I feel like there's a lot of juice left in the fruit. I'm not sure this is worth the hype. The core is still inside. There's a lot of juice left, so maybe this isn't real. You might be better off doing this the old-fashioned way.
Maya Eaglin, NBC News.
All right, Maya put in some hard work for us there. Thanks, Maya. That was fun. All right, coming up, a Chicago-style souvenir getting some high-profile attention overseas. Up next, we'll introduce you to the family from the Windy City whose unique shirts got the attention of one of the most famous former residents. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. A Chicago family visiting Rome this week brought with them a special souvenir just in case they met Pope Leo. So while the chances of that happening seemed low, it actually did eventually happen for the family, and the Pope was drawn right to them thanks to the shirts they were wearing. Reporter Marianne Ahern from our Chicago affiliate has more on the Windy City influence that's blown overseas.
It just shows how loving and almost down to earth and very approachable our Pope is.
Anne and Marcel Munoz still cannot believe they met Pope Leo. This past Sunday, the Munoz family visiting Italy took an Uber 45 minutes from Rome to attend the Pope's Mass. They were outside the church, and the plan they made ahead of time worked.
Why don't I just buy one more on the off chance that maybe, wishful thinking, maybe we could get it to the Pope somehow.
If you go on, the Pope on Amazon, there's tons of versions of everything. So then when we were deciding on which one to pick, I was like, I don't know if we're going to be 100 meters away from him or what have you. So we're just like, hey, let's get just simple Da Pope as big as possible.
There are 3 children with them as well, all wearing Da Pope shirts, a takeoff from Da Bear superfan skits from Saturday Night Live.
Da Bears. He was, across from us, and he turned his head, and I think we caught his eye with our shirts, and our son Rocco was just waving the extra shirt in front of the barricade, and he made a beeline straight to us. And I was like, oh my goodness, he's coming.
When he came to me, I didn't even form sentences. I was just saying, Chicago, we're from Chicago. We love you, Pope.
We love you, we love you.
And then I said, go Bears. You got the new coach. It's always a new season. Bears are always hopeful for how many years?
Always so
10 plus years.
For you.
Pope Leo accepted the Pope shirt, and the Munoz family, they even made it to the Pope's official Instagram account.
I really did feel very special in that moment. You feel that connection.
Our thanks to Marianne Ahern for that story. Well, the Munoz family says they grew up going to the Chicago Archdiocese Catholic schools. They say they've heard from friends all over the world who have now seen them with the Pope, which is just so awesome. We love that. So happy for them. They met him. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't go anywhere, though. The news continues right now. Good morning and happy Friday. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's on assignment right now on Morning News Now. Heat and high water. A grueling summertime slog from Mother Nature serving up some scorching hot temperatures and dangerous flash flooding to millions of Americans from New Mexico to right here in New York. So what's your weekend looking like? Our Michelle Grossman is standing by tracking it all. Also this morning, the explosive controversy surrounding the Trump administration's ongoing response to those Jeffrey Epstein files. A top Justice Department official meeting privately with Epstein's former right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, at a Florida courthouse, a move that now has some Democrats on Capitol Hill crying foul. It all comes as President Trump clashes with Fed Chair Jerome Powell over the price tag of those ongoing renovations at the central bank's headquarters. We're covering it all. Plus, another stunner to the entertainment world this morning. Pro wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, dead at 71. What we're learning about WWE Giant's final moments and the tributes now pouring in, proving Hulkamania will live forever. And later in the hour, the latest fast food fight that's got some of the nation's biggest restaurant chains battling it out, trading viral snacks for sips. Again, happy Friday. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And we are going to begin this morning with the severe weather that is impacting much of the country again today, maybe where you live. In the Southwest, more flash flooding has destroyed homes and closing streets in the town of Ruidoso, New Mexico. Crews were out again yesterday rescuing people trapped by the fast rising waters. You might remember this is the same place where 3 people were killed by flooding just earlier this month. Then here on the East Coast, it's a mix of flooding and record-breaking high temperatures that is causing concern. Heat alerts are in place from the Great Plains to New England, sending people throughout the area in search of cooler places like beaches and water parks, just looking for some relief. We have NBC's Stephanie Goss joining us now from Jones Beach on Long Island with more, where it is already toasty, even though it's early. Hey, Steph, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. You know, there is a bit of a nice breeze coming off the water, but just below the surface of it, you can feel that heat building. It is going to be dangerously hot here in Long Island, New York, as well as other places on the East Coast and around the country. Meanwhile, there are millions of Americans under flood watches today, and that's just 24 hours after that city in New Mexico was inundated with raging waters for the second time in less than a month.
Our poor town. Overnight flash floods hitting the New Mexico village of Ruidoso again. This home swept away, crashing into a tree and breaking apart. Muddy waters gushing into the streets as heavy rains hammered the community. The overflow making some roads completely impassable.
Apparently there's a lady in a car that's in the water.
The flooding triggering water rescues in fire burn scar areas where the terrain is already unstable. Meanwhile, scorching temperatures are blanketing parts of the country. Extreme heat expected again today and into the weekend, with Dallas, Memphis, Chicago, D.C., and New York all reaching max heat indexes of more than 100 degrees.
Away and running.
The Delaware Thoroughbred Racing Commission canceling horse racing events today due to the heat. In Charlotte, North Carolina, cyclists are gearing up for a 24-hour event that benefits cancer research and treatment. Organizers are taking extra precautions this year to keep participants safe.
We've got Gatorades, electrolytes, hydrating foods like coconut water and watermelon. We have got cooling rags that people can dunk into ice water. We've got misting tents and misting fans.
So the good news for people here in the Northeast is it's really just today. There are some thunderstorms coming in and will cool things off a little bit. But in the South, in places like Atlanta and Charlotte, which are normally hot this time of year, it's going to be exceptionally hot in the triple digits for days to come. Savannah?
All right, Stephanie Goss, thank you so much. Stay cool. Well, let's get straight to your Morning News Now weekend forecast. Meteorologist Michelle Grissman has everything that you need to know. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we're going to keep that heat in place, as Stephanie said, especially in the southeast as we go throughout the weekend. Today, though, it's into the mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas, into New England also. Temperatures soaring into the triple digits in some spots. 98 million at risk for heat alerts. We're looking at the heat alerts across the southern plains, the central plains, into parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, the Northeast, into New England and the Carolinas. And this is why there's that cold front dividing that cooler air, that drier air to the north, and then that really sweltering heat to the south. So we're looking at 99 today in Dallas, but it's a heat index. That's what your body feels like. That's what your body kind of responds to. So it's going to feel like 105 in Dallas, feeling like 108 in D.C. Same story as we slide up to the north to portions of the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, into New England. It will feel like 99 today in Boston, 102 in New York. That's going to be the heat index, and feeling like 107 7 in Salisbury, Maryland, also in Philadelphia. This is where we're talking about the heat tomorrow. So that heat dome tacked in place in the southeast, pumping in that hot air, also that humidity. So temperatures once again over the weekend into the 90s, into the 100s. 109 will be the heat index in Savannah tomorrow. 104 is what it's going to feel like in Richmond, and it will feel like 102 in Nashville. Then as we go throughout the early part of next week, notice these temperatures not budging. We're going to keep that heat in place. So you really want to take it careful, take all the heat warnings where you find that hydration, you go to the mall, you go to the pool if you can, because we're going to keep this heat in place for days and days. Charlotte into the triple digits on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, 101 on Monday, 102 on Tuesday. That's the big story. Also, we're looking at that cold front that I showed you. That's going to bring some showers and storms. We're already seeing that. Some of them could be heavy because of all the humidity in the air. And then we do have that severe risk. So we're looking at portions of the Northeast with that severe risk. There's that cold front on radar, clear to see where the clouds are, where those colors are. That's the heavier rain falling. So you're seeing those yellows, the reds, the oranges, and that's indicating where the heaviest rain is falling. And we are looking at 34 million people at risk for severe weather later on today. Winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail, could also see a tornado. That risk is low, but it's not zero. And unfortunately, it's along the major cities of the I-95 corridor. So we're talking about Boston, Hartford, New York City, Philadelphia. If you do have travel plans, maybe you're flying out this afternoon, certainly call ahead and see if your flight is still on time. And then we're going to see some slowdowns on the roadways with that heavy rain falling with any of those storms. There's that cold front, so we're going to see those heat fueling the storms, really cool air back behind this cold front. That's the good news. Then as we go throughout tomorrow, showers sneaking into parts of the Northeast. New storms form in the Midwest and also the Atlantic. So once again, we will see that weekend of wet weather in some spots. This is through Sunday. Notice a bullseye of the heaviest rain through parts of the Central Plains, into the mid-Mississippi Valley, even into the Northern Plains and the upper Midwest, parts of the Midwest too. But if you look towards the Northeast, the interior parts of the Northeast, we're looking at some darker colors indicating where we could see pockets of heavy rain, isolated pockets of heavy rain along the New England coast. We are also watching the Gulf. We do not expect this tropical disturbance to develop. There's only a 10% chance, but nonetheless, it's going to bring some showers and storms along the Gulf Coast, and some could be heavy Savannah. We're looking at reds, oranges, and yellows along that Gulf Coast. And remember, we just had this a few days ago, so we're going to add to those totals in terms of the rainfall.
Oh my gosh, just so important for people in those areas to know what to be looking out for. Oh, Michelle, thank you so much.
Sure.
Well, over at the White House, the controversy surrounding the Trump administration's handling of files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is showing no signs of dying down. Right now, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says he's planning to meet again today with Epstein's convicted accomplice. That's Ghislaine Maxwell. And that follows a meeting with her just yesterday. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake joins us now. Hey, Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, an unusual situation just continues with this Justice Department second in command meeting with Maxwell for a second straight day today in Florida, where she's serving a lengthy prison sentence. Maxwell's lawyer yesterday called their conversation so far productive, but Democrats are deeply suspicious of these meetings with an official who used to be President Trump's personal lawyer. All of it comes as new reporting overnight is shedding new light on Mr. Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which reached back decades. With questions mounting about President Trump's handling of the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, the president's former personal lawyer, met privately at a Florida courthouse with Epstein's convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, and her lawyers.
She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability.
On social media, Blanche writing he will continue interviewing Maxwell today, adding the DOJ will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. Democrats blasting the meeting.
We think it is incredibly suspicious, dangerous.
Democrats also noting the Wall Street Journal's reporting, citing senior administration officials, that the president was briefed by Attorney General Pam Bondi in May about his name appearing in the Epstein files multiple times, though he's not been accused of any wrongdoing. The White House dismissing that report as fake news. Mr. Trump first crossed paths with Epstein 3 decades ago and acknowledged a falling out around 2004 before Epstein's arrest in Florida. In a 2010 deposition, Epstein was questioned by an attorney for one of his victims about his relationship with Trump.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Overnight, the New York Times reporting President Trump's name appeared on a contributor list for a book Maxwell put together for Epstein's 50th birthday. It comes after the Wall Street Journal reported that book included a drawing and note from Mr. Trump that the journal described as bawdy. The president denied writing the note, telling the journal it's not my words, and filed suit against the paper and its owner, Rupert Murdoch. The paper, citing people involved with assembling the album, reports Maxwell also solicited a message from former President Bill Clinton, who contributed a handwritten note expressing his well wishes and praising Epstein's childlike curiosity. The Times also reporting that, quote, at least once before, Mr. Trump had written Mr. Epstein an admiring note, printing this photo, reporting that Trump wrote, "To Jeff, you were the greatest," in a copy of Trump's book belonging to Epstein. NBC News hasn't verified the reports about that message or about the birthday book. A spokesman for former President Clinton declined to comment overnight, but has previously stated that it's been 20 years since President Clinton last had contact with Epstein, well before any of his crimes came to light. President Clinton has also never been accused of any wrongdoing here. Also overnight, Savannah, the president responding to all of this, blasting Democrats, he says, for trying to distract from his accomplishments with what he's now calling the Jeffrey Epstein scam.
All right, Garrett Haake, thank you so much. Well, President Trump paid a visit to the Federal Reserve yesterday also to meet with Chairman Jerome Powell. The president has publicly criticized Powell multiple times and even talked about replacing him. Well, that tension, it was on full display when the two men appeared on camera together. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans is here with more on this. Hey, Christine, good morning.
Good morning. You know, this visit, Savannah, was extremely rare. A president has now visited the Federal Reserve only 4 times, and the timing is no coincidence here. The president has been frustrated with Jerome Powell, and the Supreme Court is suggesting Powell can't be fired over policy. All that has many speculating the president may be looking at this construction project as a way to fire Powell over mismanagement.
It was an extraordinary exchange. Trump has again been pushing Fed Chair Jerome Powell to lower interest rates, ramping up that pressure by publicly examining costly renovations the Fed is making, including in a visit yesterday, where Powell took the rare step of publicly fact-checking the president.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody. You just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no, but it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
Despite the hard hats, driving the visit is a disagreement over not construction, but economic policies that affect millions of Americans.
I mean, look, I have one dispute.
For months, Trump has vented his frustration against Powell, whom he appointed, calling him a, quote, numbskull and a dumb guy, arguing that he should lower interest rates to help the housing market. Powell and the Fed believe it could actually drive up inflation. He wants to hold off during the market uncertainty around Trump's landmark tariffs.
We don't take into consideration political factors. If we start doing that, I don't know where that stops.
The Supreme Court has signaled that it would block Trump firing Powell. And many on Wall Street believe the Fed must preserve its independence from the White House to keep confidence in the economic system. Trump asked yesterday if anything could make him back off his criticism.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates.
But asked if he would fire Powell.
I just don't think it's necessary. And I believe that he's going to do the right thing.
So the president was asked point blank, are you going to fire Jerome Powell for mismanagement of this building project? Right. He said no. He didn't think that that particular building construction site rose to the level of being able to fire the Fed chief. And that was something that markets really wanted to hear because they want the stability of the Fed separate from the White House and pressures from the White House. But what does it mean for this was political drama that gripped Washington and Wall Street yesterday. What does it mean for the average Joe? Maybe lower interest rates are coming later later this fall. That's what the betting wisdom is right now.
All right. Very interesting to see them both on camera and the back and forth happen in real time. Christine, thank you so much. Well, this morning, there are still more questions than answers in the murders of those 4 University of Idaho students. Just this week, Bryan Kohberger was sentenced after accepting a plea deal. Well, now the gag order has been lifted, and the lead prosecutor in the case is sharing new details about the 2.5-year investigation. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has been covering this case for us. She spoke with that prosecutor, and she joins us from the prison where Bryan Kohberger is now serving his time. Hey, Liz, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. Yeah, this is Idaho's only maximum security prison, and it appears that Kohberger was transferred here within just hours of being handed down that life sentence. And, well, from a legal standpoint, yes, this case is now closed. As you said, there are still so many questions that remain. I spoke to the lead prosecutor and asked him if he thinks the families will ever get some of those answers they're so desperately seeking.
This morning, Bryan Kohberger, now inmate 163214, beginning life in this Idaho maximum security prison. But for the families of the victims, still so many questions about why he murdered Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin.
It would always be nice to have an answer to everything, but the reality is that we don't always have that luxury.
Lead prosecutor Bill Thompson finally free to speak, sitting down with us after the release of hundreds of documents related to the case, including one revealing in the weeks before the murders, Kaylee Gonzalez thought she was being followed, and a chilling tip from a woman who said she matched with Kohberger on the dating app Tinder. She told them he asked her what she thought would be the worst way to die. When she responded, by knife, Kohberger allegedly said, like a K-bar, his future murder weapon, which still has never been found.
Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What were Kaylee's last words?
Thompson, who negotiated the plea deal that took the death penalty off the table for Kohberger, telling us even if the case went to trial, he believes the families would still never have gotten those answers.
What do you say to those families who feel like that was doing a deal with the devil?
We made a proposal on our terms, not his.
I think there's still those who feel like it's what he wanted was life in prison versus the death penalty.
I don't know what was going through his head or what he wanted. One way or another, he's going to be in prison until he dies.
He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home.
We also asked Thompson about that emotional sentencing hearing where we heard for the first time from one of the surviving roommates who came face to face with Kohberger the night of the murders.
I had been asked to block his view of her, so she made her statements at the court. That was something I've never experienced before. Watching the strength of that young lady.
The roommate sat next to you, so Bryan Kohberger couldn't see her.
Yes. So she didn't have to see him.
And there's no understanding of why he passed by Dylan and left that night after she saw him?
I'm sure there are theories. Dylan had an angel watching over her.
And I also asked Bill Thompson about some of the families' concerns that Kohberger might try to write a book while in prison. He said he's already addressed that with the families and assured them that there are laws in Idaho that will prevent Kohberger from ever being able to profit should he decide to do that. As for this prison, we can tell you that it is known for its harsh conditions. It was built to house the state's most dangerous and volatile inmates. The state's Department of Corrections hasn't said yet whether this is where he'll serve out his entire life sentence. They're still making that assessment, and it's unclear whether he'll be in general population among inmates or in solitary confinement. But ultimately, the hope is that the families now have some finality and are able to try to begin to heal. Savannah.
Absolutely, Liz. Incredible coverage throughout this entire ordeal. Thank you so much. Well, there is much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the controversial media merger between giants Paramount and Skydance Media. It's got the green light now from the Trump administration. First, though, after the break, a move of defiance from France this morning, recognizing Palestine as its own state, separate from Israel. How the U.S. and the world are reacting. That's next. Welcome back. In a bold diplomatic move, France will now recognize Palestine as a state. The announcement from French President Emmanuel Macron comes amid growing anger over the humanitarian food crisis in Gaza. In a statement posted to X on Thursday, Macron writes, "The urgent priority today is to end the war in Gaza and to bring relief to the civilian population. Peace is possible. The move makes France the biggest and the most powerful country in Europe to recognize Palestine as a state. NBC News correspondent Matt Bradley joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning. Just put in context here the significance of this decision and tell us how the U.S. is responding.
Yeah, it's a great question, Savannah. I mean, we've already heard from the U.S. They dismissed this. Marco Rubio said the same thing. He was, not a fan. And this is bucking a trend in the West. We're seeing France for the first time saying they will recognize a Palestinian state. So that is significant. But for the rest of the world, this is something that is normal. More than 100 countries throughout the world have already recognized a Palestinian state. It's recognized by the United Nations General Assembly. So this is not something that is all that much of a paradigm shift in that regard. But the fact is, for the Western world, this is new, it's novel, and it might have the effect of getting other countries to sign on to the same. The thing is, recognizing a Palestinian state is not the same as having a Palestinian state and actually having it run, having diplomacy with it. That's a totally different thing and a much more complicated effort.
Matt, in addition to what we're seeing from civilians on the ground, people who live in Gaza, who were born there, news outlets, including AP and Reuters, they're issuing this joint statement. This was just yesterday, expressing concern for journalists on the ground in Gaza. They said here that they were increasingly unable to feed themselves and their families. What more can you tell us about the situation on the ground when it comes to hunger, to starvation, to malnutrition? What is the status of aid getting in?
Yeah, and I mean, NBC wasn't on that list, but I have to tell you that our own teams in the Gaza Strip are suffering as well. There are no, special dispensations for foreign journalists or people who work for foreign news organizations. Everything you see that we provide on our air is shot by our teams in the Gaza Strip. And those people are suffering the same fate as the population there. So it really is up to news organizations to try to defend their people in the Gaza Strip. It is a very, very difficult situation. And our teams there, I know that they have been pushing and getting news out of the Gaza Strip in a tireless way, risking their lives and suffering so much in the same way that the rest of the population in Gaza has been suffering.
Matt, while this is all going on, a breakthrough on a ceasefire deal, I mean, it just does not seem to be happening, despite the Trump administration saying they could get this done. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff said yesterday, in fact, the U.S. is cutting short these ceasefire talks and this trip that they're on right now, bringing that negotiating team home from Qatar. What is behind that decision? What do we know about how those conversations were going?
Yeah, well, he said that it doesn't look as though Hamas has any appetite to actually make a ceasefire deal. What he said was actually startlingly final. It wasn't just dismissing those negotiations and pulling back diplomats for that one round. Because remember, I've talked to you, Savannah, about these rounds of negotiations for the past 2 years. We've been seeing them constantly, over and over again. Almost always they end in crushing disappointment. There have been 2 successful negotiations for a ceasefire ever since those October 7th attacks. But the really damning thing that we heard from Witkoff's statement was that he said that the U.S. is going to have to come up with alternative ways to release those hostages in the Gaza Strip. So this is not a man who sounds like he's prepared to go back to negotiations like we've been seeing round after round. If you remember, Savannah, just 2 weeks ago, this was all, so optimistic. Trump, Netanyahu, everybody was saying we're so close to a deal. The Palestinian side was saying the same thing. Now, it looks like we're back to square one. No deal, no negotiations, pessimism all around.
All right, Matt, thank you very much for your reporting here. Well, coming up, that Coldplay kiss cam controversy seen around the world. It's claiming another career this morning. More on the tech company executive whose viral moments in the show's spotlight sealed her resignation. That's next on Morning News Now. We are back now with a closer look at what is making news in the world of politics this morning. We're going to start with the disgraced former U.S. representative who is set to report to prison today. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us from Washington with that and more. Ryan, good morning.
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. We're going to start the day in politics with George Santos. You remember him, right? The embattled former congressman who was booted from the job, and then it was discovered that he'd lied about his background and was improperly using campaign funds. He will report to jail today to begin his more than 7-year prison sentence. Santos pled guilty to fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft charges. He publicly begged President Trump for a pardon, but that pardon never came. It looks like the FCC is set to approve the merger of two media giants, Skydance and Paramount, but only after a major settlement with Paramount's CBS network and the Trump administration, after Trump filed a lawsuit over the editing of an interview the 60 Minutes program did with Kamala Harris. Well, not all Paramount employees are just falling in line. The creators of the TV show South Park, who just inked a more than $1 billion deal to create episodes for the company's streaming service, released their first episode since the deal, and it skewers President Trump for his attacks on the media and free speech. The White House said that show has, quote, not been relevant for 20 years. And finally, in Wisconsin, popular Democratic Governor Tony Evers announced yesterday that he'll pass on running for a third term, creating an open seat in one of the most competitive states in the country. President Trump narrowly won Wisconsin in 2024, but the state's incumbent Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin hung on and won. In addition to every House seat and several Senate seats being up in 2026, 36 states will elect governors as well. So there is a lot on the line in 2026. And that's where we start the day in politics. Savannah, back to you.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Good to see you. Well, there is more fallout this morning from that Coldplay kiss cam video that went viral. The woman in the video is now resigning from her position at the billion-dollar tech company Astronomer. And that comes not long after the man she was with in the video, the company's CEO, did the same. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has the latest.
Hey there. Well, it was the kiss cam seen round the world, sparking endless speculation. Now news of another resignation tied to that viral Coldplay canoodle.
Yeah. Oh, look at these two.
This morning, new fallout in the so-called Coldplay Gate. Astronomer's chief people officer Kristen Cabot resigning, according to the company. Cabot recently seen in these images from DailyMail.com. Just days after the tech firm announced Andy Byron, the company's CEO, stepped down.
Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
The pair were spotted on a kiss cam gone wrong last week during a Coldplay concert in Boston. The two quickly separating from an apparent embrace.
You're okay? Oh, what?
The now viral moment sending social media into a frenzy.
I would have gone if I knew that was going to happen. Imagine being able to see that live.
From Coldplay cams at stadiums to reenactments showing something like this.
Oh, she choked!
Chris Martin even giving fans a playful warning at a recent concert.
We're going to use our cameras and put some of you on the big screen. So please, if you haven't done your makeup, do your makeup now.
The incident also raising questions about what should be private and what's not.
Coldplay needs to think about what they did because they should have never called out that couple the way that they did.
Through all the internet roasting, the tech firm Astronomer says it's been investigating the incident, writing in a statement, our leaders are expected to set the standard in both conduct and accountability. And recently, that standard was not met. The company that was unexpectedly thrust into the global spotlight announcing an interim CEO earlier this week, just days after Byron's resignation, who wrote in a statement, we have never shied away from challenges. A near decade of building this business has tested us time and time again, and each time we've emerged stronger. NBC News reached out to Astronomer for details on its investigation. We also reached out to Cabot and Byron for confirmation of the status of their relationship. We've yet to hear back from either one. Back to you.
All right, Erin, thank you very much. Well, coming up, the latest money move in fast food summer of deals when Morning News now returns why some of America's biggest chains are now cashing in on sips over snacks. We'll explain next. We're back with a look at existing home prices in the U.S. inching higher despite more inventory on the market and declining sales. The national median price hit an all-time high this summer, according to the National Association of Realtors, topping more than $435,000. June marked the 24th consecutive month the prices went up. It's a trend that is keeping several aspiring first-time homebuyers on the sidelines. Here to explain what is happening in the housing market is CNBC real estate correspondent Diana Olick. Diana, good morning. All that not to mention what interest rates look like right now. But help us make this make sense. Basic economics would say that if supply is higher than demand, prices should come down. But we're seeing the opposite happen.
Yeah, you would think that that would make sense that way, but it just doesn't because we're not in a historically normal housing market. We had underbuilding of homes for a decade after the financial crisis. So you had very, very low supply going into the pandemic. Then suddenly in the pandemic, there's this massive rush on housing. And so people buy. Prices go up over 50% since 2019 because there was so much demand. And there is still demand on the sidelines. The problem, as you said, is high mortgage rates. We're up in that sort of 6.8% to 7% range on the 30-year fix, and it hasn't really budged. And people need rates to be lower in order to afford these much higher prices, this huge price swing. Yes, there is more supply on the market, but still, it's only a 4.6-month supply. 6 months is considered balanced between buyer and seller, and that's why your prices just keep going up.
So any chance they're going to come down at all this summer for anybody who's looking to buy a house?
Well, look, they are weakening in several markets. All real estate is local. We always say that. So we're seeing some of those overheated markets in the South, also in Arizona and Nevada and parts of the South, as in Tampa, Florida and Orlando. You're seeing prices come down a little bit. What you are seeing is that the gains are shrinking. So we saw a 2% gain in June from that report you were just talking about. We had been seeing 5, 6, 7% year-over-year gains. So the gains are shrinking. And in some local markets that were overheated, like Phoenix, we are seeing prices come down. So that could be some relief.
Diana, also we're seeing as people can't sell their home, then they're suddenly turning to rent, right? They're renting out their properties instead. They're kind of turning into accidental landlords is what it's being called. How is that impacting things?
Well, it's putting more rental supply onto the market, and that's, it depends on whether you're the landlord or you're the renter. If there's more supply, that's great, and maybe rents would come down a little bit, but some of the larger landlords are saying, wait a minute, we've got more supply in these areas, and that means we can't hold up our rents. But it's a really interesting phenomenon. I talked to a lot of real estate agents just asking them, do they know of someone who decided to rent out their house and move somewhere else because they couldn't sell? Every one of them said yes. We actually spoke to one of these accidental landlords in Dallas who had to move to Houston. Here's what he said.
I expect to hold it until the market recovers, whenever that is. I don't expect for it to recover super soon. So, the expectation is that it'll be several years.
Now, Johnson said that he is going to hold on to that house because he does see himself now as a landlord, which he thinks is kind of fun. So, as we said, those accidental landlords popping up all over the country. Back to you.
All right, Diana, thank you so much. Well, staying on your wallet, McDonald's just announced that they're bringing new coffee drinks, refreshers, and flavored sodas to 500 restaurants this summer. But as NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda reports, the Big Mac giant is not the only fast food chain racing to win over thirsty customers.
Hey there. Well, first we had the chicken wars, then the snack wrap battle. Now the fast food titans are facing off in a duel over drinks. It's part of an effort to boost slumping sales for some businesses as Americans are increasingly making summer sips their go-to snack.
The brand famous for its burgers, nuggets, and most recently, snack wraps.
Please thank these people for bringing the snack wrap back.
Is now hoping to make a McMajor splash in the beverage industry, announcing a new lineup of drinks at select stores, including creamy vanilla cold brew, strawberry watermelon refresher, and Sprite Lunar Splash, in a colorful attempt to catch the eye of younger generations in particular.
Well, one of the things going on is consumers are not eating 3 full meals a day. They're a little bit more likely to get a beverage.
Jonathan Mays is the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business Magazine and says a fan favorite, so-called dirty sodas, popularized on social media and reality TV.
My soda order is very specific. 44-ounce sparkling water with sugar-free coconut, sugar-free vanilla, sugar-free raspberry, sugar-free pineapple, and coconut cream. Chef's kiss.
It's not McDonald's first go at the beverage biz. Despite long lines initially for its drink-focused spin-off Cosmix, it closed all of the stores this year, instead bringing some of those sips to its existing McDonald's locations as other companies mix up their own summer menus.
I think I know what you're really craving. A strawberry daydream refresher.
Dunkin' Donuts partnering with pop star Sabrina Carpenter to launch its new summer beverage, while Taco Bell adding mocktails called Refrescas to its menus nationwide. And Chick-fil-A and Wendy's also not missing a beat with their own cold creations. It comes as inflation-weary consumers who have pulled back on spending at some major chains
are still hot on specialty drinks, with sales at beverage and snack-focused restaurant chains up more than 9.5% in 2024.
Beverages are much more profitable than selling hamburgers or fries. And if you can get people to come in a couple of times a week for a beverage, that is a big win for a restaurant chain like McDonald's.
McDonald's is rolling out the test beverage lineup in September at 500 of its restaurants, mainly in Wisconsin and Colorado. As for the timing, they say they're seeing a real momentum, especially with Gen Z customers turning to cold and flavorful drinks as a go-to treat. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, while the idea of a shark anywhere near the beach is the biggest fear of many beachgoers, you might be surprised at how important the friendlier sharks are to their ecosystems. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung took a trip down to the shore to get us a closer look.
It's the peak of summer fun and beach activity on the Jersey Shore, but just a few boardwalks away from some of the nation's most popular beaches. A group of scientists are studying the baby sharks of nearby marshlands. Don't worry, though, if you're hitting the beach. While they may look like their famous finned cousins, these sharks are not the massive ones that have terrified moviegoers.
I think Hollywood hasn't done us any favors.
But rather, a much friendlier variety.
Are any of these sharks a threat to humans?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
An important clarification.
Adriana Zito Livingston is a project manager with the Nature Conservancy. She studies sharks in marshlands along the New Jersey shore, just some of the 3.8 million acres of salt marshes in the U.S., discovering how these calm, protected waters are the perfect place for baby sharks or pups during their first 2 summers.
We see 3 species, the smooth dogfish, the sand tiger, and the sandbar shark.
And we're putting these in the friendly shark category?
Absolutely. You don't look like you trust me.
Zito works with Dr. Keith Dunton, a professor of biology at Monmouth University in Long Branch, New Jersey. He's been tagging sharks in these waters and following them for 9 years. And some of his research is surprising. Most of these baby sharks are homebodies. 87% of sharks his team tracked in 2023 returned to the same location the following year.
They use this area again and again.
Early life development in safe waters for small sharks.
Why is this marshland such a cozy and comfortable environment for them?
It acts as a nursery ground. Sharks can practice hunting here on crabs and little fish. It's really shallow, it's warm, and it protects them from larger sharks.
Dunton and his team outfit the sharks with sensors that last nearly a decade, helping to track the pups as they eventually move on to open waters to feed on larger prey.
So we use an electronic tagging method that's very much similar to Easy Pass system for sharks and fishes. And we surgically implant the transmitter into the animal. These are acoustic tags, and this pings a unique signal that's unique to the shark every minute and a half for 10 years. As the animal passes our receivers or stations along the coast, it then records that individual animal and its movement.
The team walked me through the tagging process for these sharks.
Only the best for the sharks.
First, you've got to catch one.
Up against the wind, and 8 pounds of eel. Don't worry, guys, I got this.
We got a bite.
Okay, this guy's not messing around. This better be a shark.
From a feisty female sandbar shark.
Oh my gosh!
And then it was go time.
So we're just making a tiny incision. We're just gonna insert that like that.
There goes the tag.
And then we're gonna just suture it back up.
After collecting some helpful data,
45, 55.
I even got to put another tag in the shark's dorsal fin. The process is quick and doesn't harm the shark.
Yep.
Just a few minutes later, she was ready to jump back into the water.
What do you think we should name her?
I got one guess.
Kaylee?
It's gotta be. Okay, Kaylee.
Yep.
Get back out there, girl.
There you go.
How valuable is the information you could get from that one shark?
The information we'll get will be pretty valuable. We'll know when she becomes reproductive age, if she's returning here, or some of her other journeys that she might go on. I hope that people learn that sharks are not problematic and that this is their homes. We need to find a way to protect them.
Oh, that was so neat, amazing, and impressive, Kaylee. Coming up, we finally made it to Friday. Of course, that can only mean one thing here on Morning News Now. We've got your ticket to the latest and greatest from the world of Hollywood and beyond for your weekend of scorching hot summer weather. Who better to take us through it all than our friend, guru of all things pop culture, Brian Balthazar. Grab your AM popcorn and maybe your cup of coffee. Join us next. Finally, this hour, it's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list. We're going to look at all the films, the shows, the music you got to see and hear this weekend. And we are so lucky that our friend, entertainment journalist, pop culture expert, Brian Balthazar is here with us.
Hey.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy can't miss day.
That's right.
Let's start on Fantastic Four First Steps. Big cast here.
Right. We have Eben Moss-Bachrach. We have Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn. This is set, it's a kind of a reboot of sorts. It's set in 1961, I believe, and it's like kind of basically right when the comic book was set. So it's kind of this retro futuristic world. And it's not exactly an origin story. You don't really know how they got their powers, but it's getting really great responses from people here in the room who've seen it already, and critics as well. And for fans who love to do this, stay for the end credits, because there's an end credits scene after the credits. So stay for those. There's some hints in there about
the new I Know What You Did Last Summer has one of those end scenes.
I love those.
I love it too. And you're like kind of waiting in there and you're like, what's
exactly.
Okay, Oh Hi, another film in theaters, dark comedy.
Right, it's kind of a rom-com that turns dark. We have Iris and Isaac who decide to go on a romantic trip to a cabin. And this is not something I say on the news very often. They decide to engage in a little, like, mild handcuff play. I'm sorry, this is what happens. And when he reveals that he's not necessarily interested in something long-term, she doesn't let him go for a while. So, as one does.
Does it turn, like, scary?
It turns just, I wouldn't call it a suspense thing, but it's just a little, but he spent like 100 hours in that position for shooting, so it's very method. Yeah,
wow.
He was committed to the role.
Very method.
Right?
Okay, I love it. Also, now let's switch over to streaming, or maybe not streaming. I'm not sure. Happy Gilmore 2. That's Netflix, probably no. It is streaming. It went straight to streaming, right?
Happy Gilmore. Everyone is in this movie. Are you in this movie? I have created a list of all the people.
Travis
in this movie.
Kelce. That's
we got a long list.
Look at this.
Ready?
We got to put Brian on camera.
Okay, yes.
Put Brian on camera.
Because it's a very, very, very long list of people. We've got
Brian on camera, please.
Julie Bowen, Steve Buscemi, Kevin Nealon. Okay, sorry. Eminem, Haley Joel Osment, I'm always ready. Ben Stiller, Ben Safdie, Bad Bunny, Travis Kelce, Margaret Qualley, Jack Nicklaus. I mean, and Sadie and Sonny Sandler, his own daughters, are in the movie. I just like to keep it interesting. So this is also, I think it's just a great nostalgic feeling film right now. If you watch the trailer, there's Ken Jennings, like everyone's in it, and I just feel like it feels like comfort food.
I'm interested to see Travis Kelce acting.
They say Adam has said that he was like completely charming and warm on set and lovely. So
love it. All right, we love our crime dramas here. Code of Silence.
This looks really good. This is on BritBox.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, and so this stars a real-life deaf woman portraying a deaf woman who's the cafeteria worker in a police department, and they recruit her to help read the lips of people they're doing surveillance on. And there's an interesting, and she is being hailed in this role, also just for her career in advancing the lives and the careers, and helping people who have hearing loss or are deaf in general. She's done amazing things for that. But also, there's an interesting twist of what happens between her and someone she's investigating.
Oh, all right,
yes.
There we go. Okay, new Netflix, another music competition show. This is pretty cool. It's kind of a twist here. It's called Hitmakers.
Right.
Who's it following?
So this is taking popular songwriters and basically turning them, this kind of almost like Love Island, in that they're kind of all living together in different songwriting camps. I will say critics are not so sure about it because there's such an interesting backstory about the struggle of songwriters, and this is leaning into the reality show interpersonal dynamic. So I would say if you're thinking about it, I would watch the trailer and see if it's for you.
Right.
Because it's not for everyone. Some people are saying it's too much about tensions between them and not enough about the realness of the struggle of writing songs.
Right,
so,
very interesting. But there's some ones that have written songs for huge artists.
Yes, and there's some great artists that participate in this to challenge them to write something for them.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds pretty cool to me. Okay, now let's talk about music you got to listen to this weekend.
Right. We have Drake.
We have Drake.
Drake and UK
and Tyler, the Creator.
Right, it's a good weekend and Madonna. Okay, so Drake has a new single just released with Central C called Which One. It's kind of about the tension between attraction and intention. Like, what's your intention? Do you really just want it to be flirty? Do you want something more?
Right.
It's a good song, and they're doing 3 performances. I was going to say bop. I wouldn't call it a bop. Sorry, but
something was
right. Exactly. Oh, and then Tyler, the Creator, has a new album out, and usually he has a lot of narratives and recurring characters through his albums. This is all about the music and just really being fun, electro, pop, great stuff, and a good sound.
Okay, then Madonna.
Madonna. It's like Veronica Electronica, which was basically her alter ego. Veronica was her confirmation name, and this is from her Ray of Light era, so they're remixes and unreleased songs, including one new single, I should say, from that time.
Brian.
It's really good.
Wow, it is really good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow, we always pack it in. Oh my goodness, that was like 8 different things today. Brian Balthazar, thank you so much. Happy weekend. Happy watching. And that is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, everybody. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
Right.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.